Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am beyond excited for today's video because I am finally going to be revealing to you guys our farmhouse kitchen. If you've been watching my videos, you've seen in the background this kitchen come together bit by bit over time. We have renovated our kitchen lightly, and we've done it mostly DIY. So in this video, I'm gonna share with you all of the changes we made and of course give you a tour of my farmhouse kitchen. So actually, when we moved into this house almost 3 years ago, we came in guns blazing. We were going to do this massive kitchen renovation. We had, ideas to bring down walls, blast open ceilings. We were going to literally completely transform this room. But as we got further and further into the process, we realized just the way that this room is structured, it is part of the original part of the house. We quickly learned that to do all of that was going to be extremely expensive. So we basically went back to the drawing board and decided we are just going to work with this room for what it is. We are going to embrace this old house, and instead of trying to, change it and alter it and change the, the structure and the formation of this room, we're just gonna work with what we have and we're gonna try and make it the best that we possibly can and do it mostly ourselves. So our kitchen before was outdated. It was kind of cold, it was like gray and it was white. This room doesn't get a ton of natural light, unfortunately, so it just looked kind of drab, it looked outdated, and it didn't at all feel like, it felt like they just stuck a bunch of modern appliances in a really old kitchen that wasn't meant to hold them. And now I feel like our kitchen is so much brighter, has color brought in, it feels so much warmer in here, and I feel like we've really kind of altered the design of the kitchen to feel more like it fits the original layout, really, that was this very old original kitchen. So this kitchen is part of the original house, and we do believe that it was originally the kitchen. Now, our house, we don't know exactly when it was built. We know that the land was purchased in the very late 1600s, which is wild. And based on the architecture, we believe that it was built sometime in the 1700s. We just don't know when. We know that it was part of the Underground Railroad, which is like early to mid 1800s. So it was obviously prior to that. But this house is a stone house. It's built literally out of stone, at least the very original walls are, and that's what this kitchen is. And then, in later years, they built additions onto the house, multiple additions. So what's interesting about this kitchen is it has the original stone walls. So if you walk through here, you're entering our butler's pantry, but I just wanted to show you guys just how thick these stone walls are, and this is why we didn't touch this kitchen and decided just to do a lighter renovation within the walls that are already standing. Okay, this is how thick the walls are. They're like my entire arm, almost. They're extremely thick, they're full stone on the inside. So to open up any of the walls in this kitchen would just be a massive undertaking, which is why we decided to just work with what we have and make it as beautiful and as functional as we possibly could without doing any major renovations. Okay, so speaking of renovations, let's get down to what we actually did. So one of the very first things we did in this kitchen was get rid of the two eyesores that I despise the most. The first thing was, if you guys remember, and you've seen it in prior videos, there was this fruit tile right here on this wall, and Matt one day just took a chisel and a hammer and he completely ripped all of that fruit tile out. It was charming in its own way, but it had to go. It was very outdated. It did not fit the vibe that I wanted in this kitchen, so we got rid of it completely. And then the next thing that we did was we got rid of, there was a range hood up here. It was very awkward. This right here, this piece of counter is actually where our old range was. It was right in the counter, which was very awkward. I don't like having a cooktop or a range in. Technically this is a peninsula, not an island. I just don't like the look of it. I didn't like the functionality, and I certainly did not like that ugly range hood taking up precious real estate right here, right as you walked in the kitchen. It was like the first thing that you saw. It was very overbearing. It was very ugly. And honestly, I think we turned it on maybe twice in the entire time that it was up. So we just decided to completely get rid of it. And my gosh, did it open up this space so much. I was like, I don't even need to open up walls. Like this is a really big space. And without that there, it just made it feel so much more open, so much more airy, and it made the biggest difference. The next thing that we did, which is one of the best and most inexpensive ways to completely transform your space, is we painted. So not only did we paint the walls were originally like a light gray color. All the trim was bright white. It felt very cold and very stark in here, and it was just the wrong color palette for this particular room, in my opinion. So we painted all of the walls. We painted the walls Benjamin Moore marble white, which is a very creamy, almost yellow white, and it works perfectly in this room. It's also what we painted the Butler's pantry to, which I'll show you that as well. And then we painted the trim. As you can see, we went with a darker trim to kind of flip. Usually you do darker walls and lighter trim, but we wanted a contrast trim, which is actually was very common in colonial days. Originally, we could see where some of the paint was chipping away on the trim. We could see, actually, it used to be this beautiful deep teal blue, and I actually thought that would be super fun to like get, you know, take a paint chip and have them make that exact color and redo it that way, but I decided against it. So the color of the trim is Carrington Beige. It's also by Benjamin Moore, and it's just this really beautiful light tan color. Definitely has a green undertone, which is what I was looking for, because the other major thing that we did with paint was to paint the cabinets. So the cabinets were originally painted white, which there's nothing wrong. I like white cabinets. I have no problem with white cabinets. I love how much they typically brighten up the space. But again, in here with just not much light, I actually typically, you want to go lighter when there's not a whole lot of natural light to begin with. But again, it just felt very cold. And I wanted to warm it up, and I wanted to add in a splash of color. So we decided to go with actually a farrow and ball color. It's called lichen, which I think is how you pronounce it. And it is this beautiful muted green. It's definitely green. You can't miss it when you walk in, but it's just such a soft, beautiful hue of green. And even though it's green, it actually brings such a warmth and depth and richness to this space. Okay, next let's move on to my absolute favorite part of the kitchen, the range alcove. So when I first walked into this kitchen, I saw this big open space. Well, it wasn't open, it was filled with stuff, which I'll get to. But I saw this space and I said, that is a range alcove. There needs to be a range in there. So originally there was a big stainless steel refrigerator, and it was like sticking out. It did not fit there. It made sense, of course, to have a refrigerator in the kitchen, but it was just ugly, and it had to go. And then there was also on this side, there was a small cabinet, lower cabinet with a countertop, as well as one upper wall cabinet. So what we did in this space was, first, we got rid of the refrigerator. And you might be thinking, well, where the heck is your refrigerator? And it is actually right in our Butler's pantry, which I'm gonna show you guys. It is not in the kitchen, which we had so many contractors, designers, you name it, come through here to try and figure out how to rework this space, because it is so challenging. And it's so challenging because there's no wall space. Every wall in this kitchen either has windows, or it has a stairwell, or it has built-ins, or it has what was an exterior window is now just an opening, or it has a doorway. There's just, other than this little section right here and a section behind me, there's no wall space. So it was really hard to reconfigure the appliances, especially to make room for a range, which I knew was just destined to be in this literal perfect alcove. So after thinking about it for way too long, I just decided I was just going to ignore everyone's opinions, And I was just going to move the fridge to the pantry and it was going to be fine. And guess what? It has been totally fine. It really is not much of an inconvenience. It makes the biggest difference in the design and the airiness and the flow of the actual kitchen. I do not regret it one bit. I do not mind walking out there. It's where all of our dry food storage is anyway, so it really is not a big deal. So if you've been wondering in your kitchen if you want to maybe move the fridge like just outside, do it. It's not a big deal. Everyone's gonna tell you not to, but do it. Okay, so what we did was we got rid of the fridge, moved it out to the pantry. That was the first thing we did. We ran a water line out there so that we could have an ice maker actually work. And then we removed the lower cabinet and the upper cabinet to completely open the space up. And that allowed us to bring in this beauty right here, which I am so obsessed with. So this right here is my Ilve range. What's funny about this is we've actually had this range for a very long time. When we were planning our larger kitchen renovation, right when we moved in, I was afraid that this was going to take months and months and months. So it was the first and only thing I actually ordered for that new kitchen layout. And then shortly after that, before we ordered anything else, we just pulled the plug on doing a major renovation at all. So this beautiful range, Italian range, sat in my barn for 2 years, I think, maybe more than 2 years. Somewhere in there, just I mean, it was in a box, it was all protected, but she was just collecting dust in there. And I knew that she needed to have her moment indoors, so I knew that we had to do whatever we needed to do to make sure that we could put a range in this spot. Okay, so let me tell you about this range, because she is by far the standout, the focal point, really the jewelry of our kitchen, and it makes all the difference. So they have a lot of different colors, and I decided to go with black because this is actually the matte. They have a shiny black, but then they also have a matte graphite, which is what this is. This is matte, and it's so beautiful. And I decided to go with black because I figured back in the day when this was originally a kitchen in 1700s, they would have probably had, at some point, they would have had a big giant cast iron stove. So I figured I would go with black as kind of a nod to the past. And it's so beautiful. So this is the matte graphite, and it has brass. All the knobs are brass, the handles are brass. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's made in Italy, and they ship them over here. You can get it natural gas, or you can get it propane, which is what we have here because we don't have natural gas at this house. But she's just an absolute stunner. So this is the 48-inch range. It's huge. It has so much space. It has 6 normal burners on the top, and then it also here has space for a griddle, which I just don't have out right now. But you can put a griddle here to cook pancakes and bacon and cheesesteaks and fried eggs and whatever you need to do on a griddle, you can do right here on your stovetop. It also has tons of different cooking settings. This oven truly is, or range truly is a workhorse. So everything from, like crisping and roasting meat and vegetables, to baking breads, to baking pastries, to roasting meat. Like they have a different setting for everything, which makes everything you're going to cook that much better. I feel like this was so worth the investment, and it is a fraction of the cost of a lot of the other very high-end, especially Italian ranges that you're going to find out there. Since I bought this, these have become even more popular, and there's even more people out there that have them and will totally vouch for them. The only thing I will say is it's a little bit of a learning curve right away to kind of learn the different settings, but it's really straightforward in the manual, and you can kind of figure out, okay, this is what I'm making, this is what setting I should use, and then it's really straightforward. It has a timer on it, it has a clock on it, but it's very subtle, it's not ugly, and the oven itself, I have so much room in here. The one oven is massive, and then I also have the side oven as well, which is great if we just want to pop something in quickly. It also comes with a spit where you can, like we could literally roast a chicken, like rotisserie a chicken in our range, which I haven't done yet, but I totally want to do because we love a good rotisserie chicken, and I just feel like the smell of that going in your house, that just sounds amazing to me. We also have, I'll show you guys, in our original fireplace in here, there is a spit where they used to roast meat over the fire, which is so cool. So unfortunately that fireplace isn't functioning, but now we can do it in our beautiful range. So not only is it functional, it is amazing if you love to cook, but it's so beautiful. It is just like a showstopper, and I feel like it will take any kitchen from just like a standard beautiful kitchen to a, oh my God, that is beautiful, where you are just gonna wanna spend all your time in here because it's just so, so pretty. So then of course on the side of the range, we did have a little bit of space on either side. So we ended up putting, these are about 12.5-inch cabinets, which are typically, if you're gonna get like non-custom cabinets, they would be 12, you could get a 12-inch cabinet. But because we wanted that custom size, we really wanted them to be a snug fit, we decided to go ahead and actually build them ourselves. We've never built cabinets before, but we built the actual cabinet boxes like perfectly to size to fit in this spot. And it was a little bit tricky because this plaster wall is not exactly square. Everything in an old house is not exactly square. But I feel like they turned out pretty good for a total DIY. We did have the drawers and the cabinet doors made by like a local Amish retailer because that was a little bit above our skill set. So we did have those made, and this is our very first time making cabinets. I feel like they're definitely not perfect. Like we learned from our mistakes, but I do think that they are totally passable and they look beautiful and they just look perfect, just kind of hugging the range on either side. Plus it gives us more storage as well. The next major DIY project we took on in this house, which was actually part DIY, part hired out. And that was getting rid of the old gray tile floor that was on this side of the kitchen, and then sanding and staining and all of it to match the wood floor that was on the other side of the kitchen. So for some reason, this particular part of the kitchen right here had this hideous gray tile. It was also in the pantry, which we replaced as well. And then the other half of the kitchen was just like red oak flooring that had never been stained. It was just kind of polyurethane. So it was orangey, yellow. It didn't fit the house at all. All of the other wood floors in the house are original. They're like wide width, random plank. They're just stunningly beautiful, and it just didn't fit. They were just an ugly color. It was outdated, and it was next to this hideous gray tile. So we hired someone to rip up all the tile and do the demo, and then we had somebody put down 2¼ inch red oak flooring. And then Matt went in and he sanded everything down, the whole floor. He got all the stain and poly or whatever off of the other floor, sanded the new floor down so it was nice and smooth, and then we went ahead and stained them. The stain we used for the floors is Minwax Early American. It's this really beautiful rich brown with a little bit of warmth. It's not orange, it's not red, but it also has no like cool gray undertones, which I personally do not like at all in flooring. I do not like gray floors. I do not like cool toned floors. I want like all the warmth, but not the orange. And I feel like I totally nailed it putting the Early American on top of the red oak as far as bringing that warmth. I also forgot to mention our tile up here. So we tiled the back wall behind the range. We didn't do the sides only because there is a very awkward lip in this plaster wall up here. So again, working with what we got. So we just decided to tile the back wall. So I love the look of like antique Delft blue tiles. They are beautiful. They would totally fit with like the time period of this house. And they just bring character and they bring a little bit of warmth just with the different like hand painted images that are on there. So I wanted to go with something like that, but I didn't want to pay for antique Delft tiles to fill this whole wall. So I actually found on Etsy, there is this lovely woman, I will link her shop down below, who hand paints these kinds of tiles. So each tile is hand painted. I picked out the specific design that I wanted. And because there's like this, I wanted the range to be the forefront of this little alcove. I decided not to go with any of the tiles that have actual pictures on them. Originally I was going to put some of the picture painted tiles throughout, but then I just decided to keep it more clean and more simple and really just let the range do all the talking. So those are the tiles that I picked. I love how they turned out. I have little pops of blue all throughout this kitchen, and I feel like this is definitely something that would have been, or something of this style would have been in this house many, many years ago. So I feel like it just fits perfectly. Okay, and then the last major renovation that we did in the kitchen was replacing the countertops, replacing the sink, and replacing the faucet. So these were all, I mean, replacing countertops is a big deal, but a new sink and a new faucet is not necessarily a humongous investment, but oh my goodness, did it make such a big difference. So we ended up going with a 30-inch white fire clay sink. It is beautiful, it is massive, it fits all the dishes we could ever need in the sink. It looks beautiful, and I just love the way it looks. I did not go with a farmhouse sink in here because it would require like cutting into the prior cabinets and really messing with what was already there, and I didn't want to go that route. I didn't want to have to replace the cabinets. I wanted to keep everything that we had. So a drop-in sink to replace the original like stainless steel drop-in sink that we had was an easy fix for that. And I actually love the way that this looks. I actually prefer it over a farmhouse sink. I feel like everybody has a farmhouse sink, honestly, but I just like the clean look and having countertop go all the way across. And I like the way that the countertop is cut out around a drop-in sink versus it being cut around a farmhouse sink. I just feel like it's a little more seamless and a little less awkward. That's just my opinion. So we also replaced our faucet too. We just had like a pretty ugly standard basic stainless steel faucet, and we decided to go with something a little bit more glam, a little bit more with that colonial feel. So this is also brass. I will link all of this stuff. Everything that I can link, I will link down below. But it's beautiful. Again, it's like jewelry in the kitchen. We had like unlacquered brass drawer pulls and cabinet latches always on these cabinets, and the stainless steel just never fit. It never went with the rest of the kitchen. So now it all flows together and it just looks beautiful. Okay, so for the actual countertops that we chose, first we ripped out the original countertops that were in here, which weren't terrible. I do think that they were quartz, but they were just kind of like this white with gray spots, kind of outdated. I just didn't love them. So we decided, especially because it's not a ton of countertop space in here, we decided to replace them. So we ended up going with, these are MSI quartz. It's the Calcutta Monaco. I had a really tough time picking what kind of countertops I wanted to put in this kitchen. I was really leaning toward honed marble for a lot of the time because I just love the look of honed marble, and I'm not necessarily scared off by like the higher maintenance aspect of it. If it were to scratch or, you know, anything like that over time, I feel like that just kind of adds to the character. So I wasn't necessarily scared off by that aspect. But I do have little kids, and I was like a little worried more so about like it getting stained. So I didn't, and if you get honed, it's a little bit easier to take care of because scratches aren't as obvious. But I ended up finding this specific quartz. I looked at so many different quartz, and to be honest, I didn't like any of them. But then when I found this one, it totally changed my mind. So what I like about it is the base of it is not white, because marble typically is not, I mean, the marble that I like and I was trying to emulate, it's not a white base, it's gray. So when I found this, I was like, okay, this actually looks way more passable for marble. The veining is beautiful, it's very subtle, but the best part about it is it doesn't have that like quintessential, super shiny surface that I feel like most quartz has. It has more of a honed look and feel to it. It does still have a little bit of shine, but it's not super shiny. It's not like very reflective. And that is why I really fell in love with it. So it's so durable. I don't have to worry about it getting stained. If the kids want to come cook with me, I feel like I can just be a lot more relaxed. But it definitely gives that look of honed marble, which I love. So then of course we did also put a little piece of the quartz here and over here, which is just the perfect amount of space to be able to have all my cooking utensils and to be able to put like a dirty spatula or a spoon down. Okay, now working our way around the kitchen. First here we've got these two beautiful windows with the rounded plaster walls. I love these windows. They add a lot of character to the kitchen. And then in the middle here, we just have this little hanging shelf here, which is actually very functional. All of my spices are up here. These are our like drinking glasses that we use. And then I just got some other stuff on there just kind of for decoration. I just realized this is a cup of screws that was I never got rid of. So now we got rid of them. And then over here we have our other window, and I do have these really pretty cafe curtains on there. Again, one of my goals in this kitchen was just to bring in a lot of warmth, and adding a little bit of texture is a great way to do that. They still they don't really mess with the amount of light that comes in the room because I didn't want to mess with that since the natural light is definitely lacking. But the light is able to filter through them really well. I actually found these on Amazon. There's this shop that I found that I am obsessed with. I almost like don't want to like tell people about it. I feel like it's like my little secret. But beautiful, beautiful textiles on there. So that's where the curtains are from. I did have to hem them to make them fit perfectly, but I love the way that they just kind of cheer up these windows. They bring a little texture and a little bit of warmth, and then of course help tie in the green from the cabinets. Okay, so moving on from that window, it brings you to this wall. This back here is actually the door down to our basement. So there's actually a stairwell behind this wall going down, but then also going up. I'll show you guys that in a second. So on this wall, it's too close to the edge of the peninsula to actually like put anything on this wall. Like I couldn't put a hutch or any cabinets or anything like that because there's just, you need to have that walkway there. So I decided just to go with this peg shelf that I got on Etsy, and I painted it to match the color of the trim. And I've just got some mainly decorative things on there just to warm up that wall, give it some interest. And then we've got this, I found this little antique hanging basket, which is actually perfect for storing like mail or like papers we need to get to, just to get them up off of the counter. Okay, so making our way over from that wall, there is another door here that matches the basement door. I love this old hardware that's on here. It's just beautiful. It brings a lot of character. It's very farmhouse. And this looks like it would be a little closet, but actually it's a secret staircase to a little apartment, actually, that's above the kitchen, that has 2 little bedrooms and a bathroom. It's not set up, it's completely empty. It's not an area that we have touched other than just painting. But that's kind of cool. And then moving on from this door, here we have a set of beautiful built-ins. I don't know how old these are, but they're definitely pretty old. On the inside, you can tell that there's very old beadboard. I love these built-ins. Not only are they beautiful, the only thing we did was just paint them to match the trim, and we just switched out the knobs just to give them these little crystal knobs, which match a lot of the doorknobs that we have here in our house. And the built-ins are beautiful. I love just the kind of character they bring to this big open empty wall, but also it's so functional. We store all of our plates, all of our bowls, a lot of my like entertaining stuff goes in there. So it's actually very functional and very useful. Okay, now coming around this way, moving on from the built-ins, this door right here goes out to our dining room, and then this doorway over here, as you can see, it has those super thick walls, is taking you into our Butler's pantry. And then before we get to the pantry, I just want to show you our actual dining section. Okay, so over here is Butler's pantry, and then here is our kitchen table. This is where we eat all of our meals together as a family. And then back here is actually an original fireplace. I love this fireplace so much. It is so beautiful. We did not paint it white. The people we bought the house from painted it white. I actually did try and like test to see if I would be able to get the white paint off and expose the original brick. But it was a fail. It would have been such a nightmare trying to get it off. So again, we're just kind of rolling with it. But we think that this was maybe not the original fireplace in the kitchen, but at some point it definitely was used to cook. So this right here is actually that rotisserie I was talking about, where the old spit is actually in there, and you can see with the knobs that are here, it would have been a hand-turned operation. There's a little fireplace underneath of it. That's what would have heated this rotisserie essentially. And then over here is what would have been the bread oven. This also probably could be like nowadays a pizza oven, But unfortunately, this fireplace is not functioning at this point in time, so we haven't been able to use it. But I think it's probably something if we had the fireplace repaired, probably could use it. And then there is just a regular fireplace box down here. There's this beautiful brick hearth. It's such a beautiful fireplace. It's got this solid wood mantle up here, and I just love it so much. It brings so much character to the kitchen. It's such a historical feature, and it's one of my favorite parts about the kitchen. And then on the other side of our dining table here, this used to be originally a window, because remember, this was the original house, and our butler's pantry and family room and everything on this side of the house was at some point an addition. So you can see the curved plaster walls. There would have been a window here, and this doorway which leads into the pantry would have been an exterior door. And I actually love this window here because it obviously lets in a lot of light from the pantry because we have some skylights in there. But it also it opens up the space. It kind of connects everything to the butler's pantry. And I love that I can, from a practical standpoint, I can use this to put stuff. I've got my my Aria here. She is always pumping good smells into our kitchen. I've got some book stacks and flowers. This is a speaker that plays music. Can't live without some good like folk background music in my house most days. And now we come into the butler's pantry. Okay, welcome to the pantry. So this would have been originally, back in the day, a butler's pantry right off of the kitchen. Again, this was probably an addition at some point in time, but then next to us is actually our family room, and it is very big and it is tall ceilings. It's very grand. That definitely was at some point a dining room. My guess is like, I picture like Downton Abbey, like early 1900s when they have dinner every night. That's definitely what was happening in that room, which is wild to think about. But anyway, so this is our pantry room. As you can see, we have cabinetry on this back wall. We've got lower cabinets. We have a section of upper cabinets. And then here, what's interesting is, again, this was an addition onto the house. So this actually used to be a window, but when we moved in, there was an actual window there. It was an exterior, a very old window with the rope pulley system, and it was frosted. It was just kind of quirky and strange. There was literally a window in the middle of our house. So what we did was we actually took this window out. Okay, and then as you can see up top here, we basically built a transom. So we have a lot of transom windows in our house over a lot of the doors, all throughout our house, especially the front doors. And we really wanted to kind of bring that architectural feature to this space. I didn't know when we opened it up, we didn't know if we were going to keep it open, if we were going to close it, but as soon as we opened it up, it was just this really cool doorway, not pathway, but you could peek into the dining room. It felt a lot more open, and we knew we had to keep it open. So to make it a little bit more interesting and not just this big gaping blank space, we actually built this little transom up here. Just watched a bunch of YouTube tutorials to figure out how to do it, painted it, and I think it looks so cool. It took something that was just kind of odd, and it made it into something a little bit more functional. It opens up the space and just makes it more beautiful. So you can see our dining room is through there, and this is one of my favorite little spots in the pantry. This is our coffee bar, I guess you would call it. It's not much of a bar, but we have our espresso machine here. We keep all of our coffee beans and like discard stuff in these vintage French little crocks. But I love this area on this shelf here that was kind of made from opening up this window. This is where we keep all of our eggs from our chickens. Again, just bringing kind of that farm touch. It's beautiful. Again, it's practical. It's a great spot for us to keep them. And then into this way, this door actually brings you into our family room. So it is one of those old-fashioned swing doors, just another nod to the fact that this was once like truly a place that there would be a lot of food prepared and a lot of staff, or maybe just a few staff, making meals to then bring into that room, which is just really cool. And then now looking back this way, it is a rather long room. All here, these little closets, this is where we actually store like all of our dry food. We've got a microwave tucked in there. It's where we keep all of the cans and the bags and all the dry pantry stuff basically. And then back here, this is actually our refrigerator. So it is tucked back here, it's out of the way. It's not the prettiest thing, but it is Again, kind of tucked in the corner, but there's plenty of space here for us to open up the fridge, access the fridge. And I love that it's just out of the way. It's this big modern machine. It just doesn't really fit with our more old-fashioned feel kitchen. So it's tucked back here, but again, it's really not a big deal to come out here to this fridge. We're so used to it. It's not a big deal at all. So I'm really, really glad that we moved it because it opened up so many more possibilities in the actual kitchen. And then next to the fridge here, I do just have this little antique table. This was a Facebook Marketplace find just to kind of stick in this empty space and also to make storage a little bit more practical. So I've got my grain mill here. I have a little produce bin that has hardly any produce in it right now, just a couple of sweet potatoes. And then lastly, this thing right here is actually a radiator, and it is another one of my favorite little touches in this house. Everyone that's ever come through our house, whether it's a contractor or it's someone here to work on the heating system or whatever, there's been a lot of different people who have come through here, and every single one of them has said, I have never seen anything like that. It's the most unique radiator. I think that it probably was once used as a plate warmer. That's our guess, our best guess. Maybe also a towel warmer. I don't know, maybe any of you guys here on YouTube have seen something like this and you know what its original purpose was outside of just being a radiator, because we have radiators all throughout our home, but they don't look like this. If you have any idea what this could be, please let me know. I would love to know. I love in the wintertime when it's on and it's warm. I love popping my sourdough starter on here or breads that I want to proof. It just speeds up the process. Or if I want to soften butter, I stick it on there. It's very actually handy, but it's also just a really cool historical piece as well. And then the very last thing I wanted to point out about the pantry is the flooring. It used to also have that same ugly gray tile with the dark grout that was in half the kitchen. And we put in new tile on top of it. It has this like vintagey, antique feel. I wanted to do something fun. I wanted to do something kind of busy because this is a smaller space. I feel like I could get away with it. And I absolutely love the way that it turned out. Okay, you guys, so that is it for my farmhouse kitchen reveal and tour. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video. It's been such a long time coming. If you did enjoy watching it, please comment down below. Let me know what your favorite part of the kitchen is, and also just let me know in general if you like seeing more of this like home, you know, styling, home decor, home renovation, that kind of thing. If you like that kind of content, that's definitely something I can share more of here on my channel. But thank you guys so much for watching. As always, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I would absolutely love for you to join my little community here on YouTube. But that is all I have for this one. Thanks again for watching. I hope you love my kitchen as much as I do. It is like clearly my favorite room in the house, and I just love spending time in here every single day. But again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.